We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they're endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We all know those aspirational words from the preamble, the Declaration of Independence. I say aspirational because when Thomas Jefferson penned those words in his rooming house at the corner of 7th and Market Street in Philadelphia, in that blistering hot summer of 1776, he certainly wasn't envisioning the world that we live in today. Still yet, now some 247 years later, I'm confident for those gathered here today, there's not one among us that doesn't ascribe to those sentiments. Unfortunately, that's not always the case in our nation and the world at large today. Now, to clarify, I think it's safe to say when it relates to oneself, everyone's happy to embrace those sentiments. Of course, I should have the right to live my life and see as I see fit and pursue my happiness. But when it comes to others, sometimes even family members, the idea of having the right of self-expression and self-awareness in pursuit of happiness is an anathema. It's a good Catholic word. In spite of the fact that there have been LGBTQ plus individuals since the beginning of time, there are deep cultural biases against the members of that broad community. The LGBT community has made great strides in the last half century, starting with the Stonewall riots in 1969 and culminating with the Supreme Court ruling that legalized same-sex marriage in 2015. The LGBT community members are fully integrated into all levels and aspects of society. Yet still here, and incredibly here in 2023, incredibly out of touch with the realities that there are members of the conservative movement that still would like to roll back the clock and stomp out the rights of that community. So there's still much more to do to protect those rights and freedoms. You might have noticed that I separated out TQ plus from the broader spectrum. Being an LGB individual largely relates to who you love and who you want to build a lifelong relationship with. Being LGB has a lot to do with the pursuit of and the building of an intimate interpersonal relationship. On the other hand, being TQ plus has to do with a lifelong journey in search of deep understanding of who you are and how you want to be perceived in the world. Now let me pause for a moment and put a quick disclaimer in here. To be inclusive of the panoply of gender nonconforming descriptive terms, as a matter of practicality and expedience, I will use the words transgender and trans as an umbrella term for the full rainbow of transgender, transsexual, queer, gender fluid, bigender, and many more descriptive terms. So a story. Imagine this scene. Woman's in the delivery room, and with one great last push, gives birth to a child. The bundle of joy pops out, and once the doctors and nurses get the child breathing with a good hard smack on the butt, flip the child over and take a look between the little urchin's legs. And for purposes of simplicity for this story, they exclaim, "It's a boy," or "It's a girl." The parents are delighted. Cigars are handed out and champagne is opened up. The birth certificate paperwork is processed with an M or an F, and a lifelong cascade of cultural conditioning is undertaken. God's in his heaven and all's right with the world. Or at least, at that moment, that would be what it seems. The problem is that while assigning sex is easy, expedient, and practical, understanding and coming to grips with the gender of a child or a young adult is a much longer and trickier process. While generally there is alignment, we have come to understand that in many cases, these two unique aspects of being human are not always operating in concert. Keeping it simple, I like to gel it down to this. Look to your heart to understand who you love. Look between your legs to find your sex. and look between your ears to understand your gender. It is between your ears aspect of one's psyche is where one's true sense of self and gender is found. The idea that some politician should have any involvement in that search for identity is ludicrous and disingenuous, easy for me to say. With the explosion of the information age on the World Wide Web over the last 20 years, for the first time in history, individuals in the privacy of their own home can find information and community regarding being transgender and transsexual. With that newfound font of information, individuals standing on the shoulders of the work of the LGBT community started to become more and more visible. Unfortunately, many times, as they venture out into the world, they are seen as easy targets for haters and the religious fanatics of the lunatic religious right. Those miscreants spew out a seemingly endless stream of unfounded FUD, fear, uncertainty, dread, deception, trying to demonize the transgender community in an effort to create a political wedge issue at the expense of a community who simply wants to live their life in peace. The endless onslaught of terror and rejection, sometimes by the very parents who pledged their undying love for that little bundle of joy that they took home from the hospital years before, tragically drive that very child to the desperate act of suicide as a way to make the pain of rejection and hate go away. That is precisely why I chose You Will Be Found from the musical Dear Evan Hansen as our opening music, as a way to say to any transgender individual who might hear this and is feeling lost and all alone, we, yous, are searching for you. We are here for you, and you are not alone. Of course, in the larger world, there's plenty of discrimination to go around, and discrimination against transgender individuals is everywhere. From restricting where someone can go to pee, to limiting what sports and activities they can participate in, and even the denial of the opportunity to secure a decent job to earn a living. As we were putting the service together, someone said, some of the people in the victim memorial slideshow were sex workers. To that I say, all the more reason that we should mourn their loss and celebrate their lives. It's tragic that a transgender person not being able to procure a good-paying job should have to debase themselves in order to survive. The unnecessary carnage of transgender people is heart-rending and tragic. I think the lyrics from the song My Immortal by Evanescence, which you'll hear behind the victim slideshow, kind of sums up how we might feel. These wounds won't seem to heal. This pain is just too real. There's just too much that time cannot erase. When you cried, I wiped away your tears. When you'd scream, I'd fight away all of your fears. And I held your hand through all these years, but you still have all of me. You used to captivate me by your resonating light. Now I'm bound by the life you left behind. Your face, it haunts my once pleasant dreams. Your voice, it chased all the sanity in me. I'll have more to say, actually a lot more to say, later in the service. But for now, please join me in recognizing the 38 transgender victims that were prematurely and needlessly taken from us and their families, while Jamie Kegerise and Abby Seifert will light the 38 candles in their honor.
I'm so tired of being here, suppressed by all my childish fears.